I really liked Blue Beetle. It may follow the beats of a standard superhero origin film, but I honestly don't mind because there's just so much to love. It wears its heart on its sleeve and cares deeply for its characters. It's always genuine with its emotions and has some really hard hitting moments because of it. Its message of turning pain into power is super inspiring, and the movie itself is just a really fun watch. More than all of that, though, it's an incredibly sweet and sincere story that understands and emphasizes the importance of having others by your side. If you have your family, if you have friends, if you have a community, then it's important to stand together and support each other, especially during tough times. The strength and love that comes with that support is ultimately what Blue Beetle is about, which is wonderfully shown with our main protagonist, Jaime Reyes, and his close family. His mother Rocio, his father Alberto, his uncle Rudy, his sister Milagro, and his nana. Spoilers for the whole movie, by the way, so give it a watch before seeing this video. The Reyes family is going through a really difficult time right now. Alberto nearly died from a heart attack, lost his job, and the whole family is on the verge of losing their house. Jaime's return from university brings some hope for them, but it ultimately does little good. His aspirations and pre-law degree can only get him so far, especially when he lives in a world that doesn't see or value him. So yeah, things aren't going all too well for them, and when Jaime makes contact with the alien scarab Kajida, it only gets worse. He's now unwillingly become the host of a world-destroying weapon, and later learns that he's stuck with it till death. His chance for a successful, normal life is even more out of reach than it was before. And if that wasn't bad enough, he's now gotten the attention of Victoria Cord, a heartless CEO that will do anything to get the scarab, even if it means killing his entire family. It's all just bad news after bad news. Seeing how troubled Jaime is by all of this, Rudy tries to lift his spirits up by reminding him of the kind of man his father is. Alberto's life was filled with its own hardship. Crossing the border was its own challenge, but the life afterward was an even greater struggle. He worked long and hard, day after day, and took whatever job he could just to get by. It was rough, but he still did it and pushed forward. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to, for him and his loved ones. Yes, Jaime and the Reyes family as a whole have been thrown some terrible curveballs lately, but when all is said and done, they'll get by the way they've always have. They'll take the punches, persevere, and turn their pain into power, because that's who they are. Jaime's scare may not have been what he wanted, but he shouldn't think of it as a curse. It's a gift that he needs to make the most of. With this talk, Jaime stops treating the scarab like a problem and takes his first steps in embracing it. Good thing too, because Victoria has just located their house and begun her attack. Jaime takes care of her gunmen no problem and gives his family a chance to escape, but as it happens, Alberto unfortunately suffers another heart attack. The stress of the whole situation was just too much for him to bear, and as Jaime runs to him, Victoria uses this opportunity to capture him. The family cries for help, but there's nothing more that can be done. Jaime is taken away, and Alberto tragically passes. The Reyes family is understandably heartbroken by all of this, but Nana knows that they can't afford to grieve right now. They need to save Jaime. And, with the help of Jenny Cord and her father's tech, they're all given the opportunity and the means to save their boy. They go into Victoria's fortress with no hesitation. The bond this family has and the resolve to keep fighting after all their struggles is just so good, and I love the fact that they all play a part in Jaime's rescue. Milagro and Jenny blow up the fortress's power generator, freeing Jaime from Victoria's machine. Nana laid out the rescue plan and later on saves Jaime's life when he's depowered and cornered by soldiers. Rudy uses the bug ship provided by Jenny to get the family in the fortress, and in the final fight distracts the big bad Carapax enough to save Jaime. I should mention that this is actually the second time Rudy saved Jaime, and funnily enough, in both instances, it's right after Carapax tells Jaime how weak his family makes him. Rudy is just always out here proving Carapax wrong. It's great. Rocio's contributions aren't as big as the others, but they're still notable. She motivates Jaime and Kajida to save the day by once again repeating the idea of turning their pain into power, and in the end flies the bug ship out of the fortress before it explodes. Everyone in the family helps Jaime out here, and when I say that, I do mean everyone. While Jaime was strapped to Victoria's machine, the data being drained from the scarab began affecting him too. It was killing him. But right as he brushes up against death's door, he's greeted by his father. Jaime understands what this means, but his father comforts him and the two talk. Jaime is scared. He doesn't know how he can move forward without him. But Alberto assures him that he'll always be with him in his heart, and he shouldn't worry because deep down, he knows what he has to do. With this assurance, Jaime fully embraces the power he's been given and completely synchronizes with Kajira. This may not have been what he wanted his life to be, but through his family's encouragement, their inspiring words, and their undying support, he accepts this heroic role with resolve. This is what I love about the family in this movie. They're so involved. Without their emotional support, Jaime would have been consumed by his sorrow and self-doubt. Without their physical support, he would have surely died. Jaime may be the star, but the story never forgets that they were all on this journey together. His family was with him every step of the way, and the fact that they meaningfully make a difference here is just wonderful to see. It makes the film's theme of family more than just lip service. Yeah, lines like family is forever or my family is what gives me strength are still pretty cheesy, but this third act brings it all together and shows how genuine it is about them. It champions these themes with pride and love, and this sincerity is what makes Blue Beetle such a heartfelt gem. It's also what makes the family's reunion at the end so touching. We've just witnessed the depths of their love and the length they're willing to go for each other, so of course the first thing they do after all of this is mourn Alberto's death. He meant the world to them, and now that they're all together again, they can properly grieve in the comfort of each other's arms. It's really sweet, and seeing their community help them out at the end is fantastic too. This love and support is what it's all about. It really is a beautiful thing, and is unsurprisingly something our antagonists, whether by choice or by tragic misfortune, lack entirely. Now, I've heard some complaints about the antagonists, and I kind of get it. Victoria's pretty basic since she's an irredeemable corporate scumbag, and Carapax doesn't really show the depths of his character until the end. That said, I really like both of them. Victoria doesn't have a lot going on, but I don't really mind because she's not supposed to. She's just meant to be hateable, and she excels at that. She's a rich racist Karen that has no remorse for others and pathetically excuses her atrocities as part of the greater good. All that means, though, is seeing her own vision through no matter the cost and having her pockets filled. It's not much, but it's perfectly serviceable for a bad guy. Plus, she has a really satisfying demise. After Carapax remembers his past, he drags a kicking and screaming Victoria to a fire pit and proceeds to self-destruct. He even mocks her on the way by saying that her death is for the greater good. It's incredibly cathartic. Speaking of Carapax, I can see why others would be bothered by how he's handled, but I honestly think it's pretty great. His backstory recontextualizes him in a way that makes him a really interesting character to think about. Up to that point, he was presented as your run-of-the-mill supervillain, a mostly silent powerhouse with a bit of menace to him, sure, but not much else. The reason for that, though, is because that's what this rich white CEO thought would sell well. The Carapax we see for the majority of the film was just Victoria's product. That's why it's so soulless. The real Carapax, Ignacio, has been slowly dying over time. His mother and home were taken from him when he was just a kid, his memories of that time were lost after an explosion, and Victoria's Olmec project has gradually stripped him of his remaining humanity. Everything that previously defined him has been removed, and in its place is this subservient killing machine whose only value is its selling point, its strength. This is what he's been reduced to. This undermining and exploitation of a person's identity and livelihood is actually something that's been in the air of the entire movie. Remember when Milagro talked about the inevitable gentrification of their neighborhood? Or those times Jaime got ignored or shrugged off because he was just some Mexican kid? Victoria's treatment of her top scientist, Jose Francisco Morales y Vera de la Cruz, is another example. She constantly calls him the wrong name and disregards his opinion because his identity and personal thoughts were irrelevant to her. This is actually another reason why I like the late reveal of Carapax's true character. His backstory serves as a thematic endpoint to all of that. When you take away a person's home, undermine their identity, and treat them like a tool, this husk of a human being is what you end up with. It's a powerful final look at how awful this kind of treatment is, and how terribly it can warp a person. Of course, Victoria considers this an improvement, but thankfully, Jaime and even the sentient space tech can see the horrors of it all and sympathize. This understanding that Jaime has with Carapax is what this exploitation idea has been leading towards. Racist rich fat cats like Victoria could never care about who Carapax used to be, but that didn't mean no one else would. When Jaime learned of his past, he saw Carapax for the person he was, realized his pain, and spared him because he knew he deserved better. Shoutouts to Jose for doing the same for Jaime, by the way. It was a cheesy moment, but him finally standing up against Victoria and allowing Jaime a chance to escape is what we love to see. Instead of playing her games, they all recognized each other's humanity, gave each other a hand, and did what they knew was right. As a side note, I really love that all these Latino characters come together to take out this racist CEO. It's just a very satisfying thing to see. As you've probably noticed, this is essentially the same idea we saw with Jaime's family, which is great. It's nice that the movie expresses that even if we're not tied by blood, we should still be understanding and helpful to those in need. Life and rich assholes are always going to hit us in unexpected and terrible ways. That's just the way it's going to be for most of us. But that's why we have to look out for each other. We can do a lot on our own, yes, but we can do more together. Not only that, but having others by your side through tough times is just a really comforting and lovely thing to have. In short, the troubles faced will be a lot easier, and the love that's shared will only grow stronger. So rely on your family, support your community, and stand together. I know this is a pretty rosy message, but I honestly don't see that as a problem. I'm not going to fault a superhero movie for having an optimistic perspective that encourages love and togetherness, especially when it's so earnest about it like this one is. There are other smaller things I could gush about with this movie, but I've said most of what I wanted to say. It's a really sweet film, and I'm glad I was able to talk about it today. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.